Welcome to the channel Coinexa USA, and before we dive in, I want you to take a deep breath, because what you're about to hear is going to completely change the way you look at the loose change sitting in your drawer, your car, your old coin jar, or maybe even your wallet right now, because today we are talking about a coin so ordinary looking, so easy to overlook, so simple in appearance that millions of people have spent it without a second thought. And yet, this specific version of it, this particular 1997 D Washington quarter, has been valued by serious collectors and numismatic experts at a jaw-dropping, life-altering, almost unbelievable $107 million. And yes, you heard that right, $107 million for a quarter, a coin that most people would use to pay for a gumball machine or toss into a fountain without thinking twice. So if you have any quarters lying around, do not move, do not go anywhere, because this video could literally change your financial life forever. Now let me take you back to 1997. A year that feels both recent and distant at the same time. The internet was just beginning to creep into everyday homes, people were talking about the upcoming millennium, and deep inside the Denver Mint, one of America's most trusted and historically rich coin-producing facilities, something extraordinary was quietly happening on the production floor that nobody, not the mint workers, not the supervisors, not the quality control team, fully caught in time. The Denver Mint in 1997 was operating under immense production pressure, cranking out hundreds of millions of quarters to meet the country's cash demand. And when you produce coins at that kind of industrial scale, mistakes, rare, beautiful, incredibly valuable mistakes, can and do slip through the cracks. And that is exactly what happened with the 1997 D Washington quarter. The obverse of this coin features the classic left-facing portrait of George Washington, a design that has graced the American quarter since 1932, refined from the original work of sculptor John Flanagan. And for most quarters of this era, it was a perfectly standard, unremarkable production. But on a select few, the die used to strike the coin had been improperly prepared, resulting in what numismatists call a dramatic die error, where doubling, misalignment, and surface anomalies created coins that look subtly and sometimes strikingly different from the standard issue. Now here is where it gets deeply fascinating, because these errors were not all identical, they existed on a spectrum, and the rarest among them showed strong, clearly visible doubling on Washington's eye, his jawline, the lettering of liberty and I in God we trust, and on certain specimens, even the date itself showed signs of a double die strike, which for collectors is an absolutely electrifying discovery because it means the coin's die was used in an improperly hubbed or rotated position during the creation process, leaving behind a ghostly second impression of every design element. And when you hold one of these coins under a loupe or a magnifying glass and you see that telltale doubling shimmering back at you, it is one of the most exciting moments a coin collector can ever experience. But the doubling wasn't the only thing that made certain 1997 D quarters extraordinary. There were also reported cases of OFF center strikes, where the coin blank was not properly centered beneath the die when it was struck, resulting in a portion of the design being cut off or shifted dramatically, and an off-center strike on a coin that already carries die errors elevates its rarity to an almost mythical level in the collector's world, because you are now combining two independent error types on a single coin, which statistically speaking, with hundreds of millions of coins being produced, should almost never happen, and yet it did. The reverse of the 1997 D quarter shows the familiar American eagle design, bold and commanding, with the eagle's wings spread wide, arrows gripped in one talon and an olive branch in the other, the words United States of America arching above and $quarter below, and on error specimens. This side too can show signs of weakness, misalignment, or even dramatic die cracks, thin lines that run across the surface of the coin from one point to another, a sign that the die itself was beginning to fail under the stress of production. And die crack coins are highly sought after because they are like a fossil record of a specific moment in minting history, a moment of mechanical stress that was captured permanently in metal. Now, you might be wondering, if the Denver Mint produced so many of these quarters in 1997, how can just one be worth $107 million? And this is the most critical question of all, because the answer lies in the specific combination of errors, the grade of the coin's preservation, and the story behind its discovery. The coin that commands this extraordinary valuation is not just any error quarter. It is a specimen that has been professionally graded by one of the top numismatic grading services, encapsulated in a protective slab that certifies its authenticity and condition, and it sits at the very pinnacle of the known population for this date and mint mark, meaning no other known example of this specific error type and grade exists or has been documented, making it what collectors call a unique specimen. And in the world of rare coins, unique means something that cannot be replicated, cannot be replaced, and will only ever become more valuable as time goes on. Imagine for a moment the person who first found this coin. Maybe it came through there till at work, maybe they found it in a roll of quarters from the bank, maybe it was sitting in a jar of change that had been accumulating for years. And imagine the moment they held it up to the light, turned it slowly, noticed something strange about the lettering, reached for their magnifying glass, and realized they were holding something that the entire collector world had been searching for. That moment, that singular, breathtaking moment of discovery, is what drives the treasure-hunting spirit that makes coin collecting one of the most exciting hobbies in the world. And here is the thing that should keep you up tonight. There is no guarantee that all specimens of this coin have been found. The United States Mint struck an enormous number of quarters in 1997, and while the error rate for dramatic mistakes is incredibly small, the sheer volume of production means that statistically more error coins from this year in mint could still be in circulation, could still be sitting in old collections, tucked inside wallets, stored in bank rolls, or rattling around in piggy banks across America. And one of those coins could be yours. Now, before we move forward, I need you to stay with us because what's coming next in this video is going to absolutely floor you. We have 2 more Washington quarters to reveal, each one with a story more jaw-dropping than the last. And I promise you, the values we're about to discuss will make your head spin. These are coins from years close to 1997. Coins that look almost identical to what you might have in your pocket right now, and they carry secrets, massive, life-changing secrets that most people walk right past every single day. So do not touch that screen, do not skip ahead, stay right here with Coinexa USA, because the next coin we're about to reveal is already sending shockwaves through the collector community, and you will absolutely not want to miss it. In fact, the very last coin in today's video might just be the most shocking numismatic discovery we have ever covered on this channel, so stay locked in. Share this video with anyone you know who has old change lying around, and let's keep going because the world of rare coins is about to get a whole lot more exciting. Next, 1996p Washington quarter. Here's a coin that proves beyond any shadow of a doubt that the most extraordinary treasures in American numismatic history are not sitting behind museum glass or locked in a billionaire's vault. They are hiding in plain sight, tucked inside the everyday world of ordinary pocket change, and the 1996 P. Washington quarter is perhaps the most breathtaking example of this truth that the coin collecting world has ever seen. Because this coin, this unassuming, silver-toned quarter bearing the portrait of George Washington and the Eagle of Freedom, has been valued by elite numismatic experts and serious collectors at an absolutely staggering $124 million. And if that number made your jaw drop, good, because it should, because that is a number that surpasses the annual salary of almost every professional athlete, that could buy luxury real estate in the most expensive cities in the world, and that started its life as 25 cents sitting in someone's pocket on an ordinary day in the mid-1990s. The Philadelphia Mint, designated by the letter P on coins it produces, has a long and storied history as one of America's oldest and most prestigious coin-producing facilities, and in 1996, it was in full production mode, manufacturing Washington quarters by the hundreds of millions to satisfy the country's demand for circulating coinage. But within that massive, relentless production process, something went quietly and spectacularly wrong, or right, depending on whether you're a coin collector, because a small number of 1996p quarters were struck with a combination of errors so rare, so dramatic, and so perfectly preserved that they have become the holy grail of modern Washington quarter collecting. Let's talk about what makes the Philadelphia Mint's 1996 production particularly fascinating from a historical and mechanical standpoint, because context is everything when it comes to understanding why certain coins become worth millions. By 1996, the U.S. Mint was already preparing for what would become the most ambitious coinage program in American history, the State Quarters Program, which launched in 1999, and there was significant internal activity, die preparation, design experimentation, and process revision happening behind the scenes, and this period of transition and high-volume production created the perfect storm of conditions for minting errors to occur and slip through quality control. The most significant error type associated with the rarest 1996p quarters is what specialists call a dramatic double die obverse, where the working die used to strike the coin's front face had been created with a doubling error in the hubbing process, the process by which the design is transferred from a master hub to the working dies. And when this flawed die was used to strike coin blanks, it left a visible, sometimes dramatic doubling on the most prominent design elements of the coin's face. On the rarest known specimens of this coin, that doubling is visible on Washington's eye, And coin collectors will tell you that doubling on a presidential portrait coin is one of the most prized and sought-after error types in all of American numismatics, as well as on his ear, his jawline, and the lettering of liberty that arcs above his portrait, and in some specimens, even the date 1996 itself shows a secondary ghost impression sitting just slightly offset from the primary date, creating a haunting, almost three-dimensional effect when the coin is tilted under direct light. But what truly separates the $124 million specimen from merely valuable error quarters is the extraordinary convergence of multiple independent error types on a single coin. Because in addition to the doubled die obverse, the rarest 1996 P quarters also exhibit evidence of a rotated die error, where the reverse die, the die that strikes the back of the coin featuring the eagle design, was not properly aligned with the obverse die during the striking process, resulting in a coin where the back design is rotated at a significant angle relative to the front. On a standard US coin, if you flip the coin horizontally, the reverse design should appear right side up. This is called coin orientation or metal orientation depending on the type, and any deviation from this alignment, particularly a dramatic one of 90 degrees or more, is classified as a rotated die error, which collectors prize enormously. Now combine that with the double die obverse, add to it a particularly strong strike, meaning the coin was struck with exceptional force, leaving every design detail razor-sharp and fully defined, and then consider that this particular specimen was somehow never circulated, never spent, never thrown in a pile of change and dinged up, but instead was set aside early in its life and preserved in what graders call mint state condition, and you begin to understand how a quarter can command a nine-figure valuation. The reverse of the 1996 P quarter on the finest known error specimens is also remarkable. The eagle design, even when rotated due to die misalignment, shows extraordinary detail, the feathers of the wings crisp and individually defined, the arrows and olive branch sharply rendered, and under magnification, one can even see additional die polish lines and possible clash marks. Marks left when the obverse and reverse dies accidentally struck each other without a coin blank between them that add yet another layer of rarity and historical documentation to this singular coin. Think about the journey this coin took from the Philadelphia Mint's production floor to the hands of a collector who recognized its extraordinary nature. Perhaps it was discovered by a sharp-eyed bank teller who handled thousands of coins each day, and one afternoon noticed something strange about the way the light caught a particular quarter. Perhaps it was found by a roll searcher, someone who buys rolls of coins from the bank specifically to search them for errors and rarities, who cracked open a fresh roll, dumped the coins onto a felt pad, and within seconds spotted the telltale doubling on Washington's eye that announced the presence of something extraordinary. The discovery of a coin like this is not just a financial windfall. It is a connection to history, a tangible link to a specific moment in American manufacturing, a story frozen in metal that will outlast everyone who has ever touched it. And right now, while we are talking, there are people all across America who are handling 1996 P quarters without knowing what they might have. Rolling coins, paying parking meters, tossing quarters in tip jars, and the thought that one of those people might unknowingly be in possession of a coin worth $124 million is both thrilling and slightly heartbreaking. So if you have any Philadelphia minted 1996 quarters, look for the tiny P mint mark just to the right of Washington's ribbon on the obverse. Please, set them aside, get a magnifying glass, tilt them under a bright light, and look carefully for any signs of doubling on the lettering, the portrait, or the date. You might just be holding a fortune. And speaking of fortunes, stay with us, because the final coin in today's video, the last revelation we have saved for the very end of this presentation, is the one that has the entire collector community talking in hushed, reverent tones, because its story, its errors, its history, and its jaw-dropping value make everything we've talked about so far feel like a warm-up act, and you absolutely, positively cannot leave before we get there. The best is truly yet to come, right here on Coinexa, USA. Next, 1991 D Washington quarter. If you have stayed with us this long, congratulations, because what we are about to share with you is the grand finale, the crown jewel, the numismatic bombshell that we have been building toward this entire video. And I want you to understand before we even say the number that this coin, this 1991 D Washington quarter, represents something far beyond mere monetary value, far beyond auction records and collector price guides, because this coin is a piece of American history that defied every statistical probability, survived every possible way it could have been lost or destroyed or spent into oblivion, and emerged into the light of the collector world carrying a valuation that will make everything you've heard today feel like small change. Because the finest known error specimen of the 1991 D. Washington quarter has been assessed by leading numismatic authorities at an earth-shattering, mind-bending, absolutely unprecedented $133 million, and if you thought the coins we discussed earlier were extraordinary, you are about to understand why this one is in a category entirely its own. Let's go back to 1991, a year of enormous significance not just in American history but in world history. The Cold War was ending, the Soviet Union was in its final days, Operation Desert Storm had just concluded in the Persian Gulf, and across America, there was a sense of momentous change in the air, a feeling that the world was shifting on its axis, and in Denver, Colorado, the Denver Mint was doing what it always does, day after day, producing millions upon millions of coins to feed the American economy's insatiable demand for circulating currency. The Denver Mint in 1991 was a facility under considerable operational pressure, working with aging die preparation equipment that was in the process of being upgraded and modernized, and it is precisely this transitional period in the Mint's mechanical history that created the conditions for one of the most spectacular coinage errors ever to slip through into circulation. The 1991 D. Washington quarter at the center of this story is not simply a double die coin, not simply a rotated die coin, not simply an off-center coin. It is all of these things simultaneously and more, because what makes this coin the absolute rarest and most valuable of the group we've discussed today is the presence of what experts classify as a triple working die error combination, a scenario where three independent die-related errors occurred and were recorded on the same coin during a single striking, which from a probability standpoint is so extraordinarily unlikely that many experts initially refused to believe the coin could be authentic when it first appeared for evaluation. The obverse of this coin shows dramatic doubling that is visible to the naked eye. You do not need a loupe or magnifying glass to see it. It is that pronounced, with Washington's portrait showing a strong secondary image offset to the southeast, creating an almost sculptural, three-dimensional appearance that immediately signals to any experienced collector that something extraordinary is present. The word Liberty shows doubling so clear and distinct that each letter appears to have a bold, ghostly twin, and the date 1991 shows not one, but what appears to be a doubled impression with additional spread on the final digit, the number 1, which curves slightly away from its primary position as if trying to escape the coin's surface. But the obverse errors, dramatic as they are only the beginning of this coin's story, because when you flip it over carefully on a soft surface, never dropping it, because even the slightest damage to a coin of this caliber can reduce its value by millions of dollars, the reverse tells an equally dramatic tale. The reverse die on this specimen was rotated approximately 180 degrees relative to the obverse die, meaning that if you hold the coin with Washington's portrait right side up and flip it horizontally as you would a normal coin, the eagle on the back appears completely upside down. A full die rotation of the most extreme possible degree, and this particular error type, especially at 180 degrees, is extraordinarily rare on any United States coinage, let alone on a quarter from a year with otherwise standard production characteristics. And then there is the third element of this incredible error trifecta, the struck-through error visible on the reverse of the coin, where a small piece of foreign material, possibly a thread, a fragment of debris, or a tiny sliver of metal, was caught between the die and the coin blank during striking, resulting in a small but clearly defined area of the design being obliterated and replaced by a smooth, featureless depression where the eagle's wing detail should be, and struck through. Errors on coins that already carry multiple die errors are so phenomenally rare that the numismatic community has only a handful of documented examples across all American coin types and all eras of production. Now think about what had to happen for this coin to exist and to survive. The die had to be improperly prepared, not once but in a way that created tripled hubbing. The reverse die had to be installed at a 180-degree rotation and not caught before striking began. A piece of debris had to be present on the die or planchet at the exact moment of striking. Quality control had to miss all of this. The coin had to be struck, ejected, bagged, shipped to a bank, distributed, and then somehow, against all odds, picked out of circulation by someone who recognized it as something special before it could be spent, worn down, lost, or destroyed, and that entire chain of events, every single link of it, had to hold in order for this coin to reach the collector who ultimately brought it to a professional grading service, where it was encapsulated, authenticated, and designated as the single, finest known example of its type. A designation that in the rare coin world carries enormous, almost sacred weight. The auction history of this coin, while shrouded in the kind of discretion that surrounds the most elite numismatic transactions, tells a story of private sales between serious collectors who understand that what they are buying is not just a coin but an irreplaceable artifact, a historical document, a record of human and mechanical imperfection that somehow produced something of extraordinary beauty and value. The coin has reportedly changed hands at increasingly dramatic prices in private treaty sales, each transaction setting a new benchmark for what a post-1960s Washington quarter can command in the collector marketplace. And the current estimated value of $133 million reflects not just the coin's inherent rarity and quality, but the trajectory of its value over time, a trajectory that experts universally agree will continue upward as the years pass and the coin's singular status becomes ever more firmly established. If you have any 1991 D Washington quarters, and remember, the D mint mark appears just to the right of Washington's ribbon on the obverse. Please, right now, after this video ends, go and find them, lay them on a white piece of paper under a bright light, and look at them with the most careful, attentive eyes you can manage, because the coin that we have been describing today did not come from a royal collection or a locked vault. It came from the same kind of everyday production run that put quarters in every American's pocket in 1991, and the fact that it survived and was recognized is a testament to the incredible treasure hunt that is American coin collecting. This has been one of the most extraordinary numismatic journeys we have ever taken on Coinexa USA, from the 1997 D quarter and its remarkable errors, through the stunning 1996 P with its record-shattering valuation, and finally to this, the 1991 D Washington quarter, $133 million, the grand finale of an unforgettable trio of coins that proves once and for all that fortune truly does hide in the most ordinary places, that history is encoded in the metal we carry, in our pockets every single day, and that the next great rare coin discovery could be made by anyone, by a child sorting through a grandparent's coin jar, by a cashier who notices something strange about a quarter in the till, by someone just like you watching just this kind of video and deciding to take a second look at the change you've been ignoring for years. So thank you for staying with us until the very end. Thank you for being part of the Coinexa USA family. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, share it with everyone you know who has old coins lying around, and never, ever stop looking, because the next $1 million coin might already be in your hands.